along, and there are a couple of people joining us today who aren't FDA members, so special welcome to you. It's great to have you here. I'm Nicola Thomas, I'm one of the directors of the FDA, which is the UK's community for food and drink exporters. And we've got over 700 individual members. And one of the key benefits of membership is access to our network, which is not only made up of fantastic brands who want to export, but also international trade experts who can help with every aspect of selling internationally, from logistics to labeling, from compliance to certification. And we also have a network of in-market experts around the world in about 25 plus markets. And another benefit of membership is also that we have a wide range of activities, events, and one of the, I think, the key strengths is that we give exporters lots of insights, but they aren't just kind of research that you can use as a doorstop. They're very much actionable insights that you can put into practice tomorrow, as a manner of speaking. So really delighted today to bring you a double whammy of benefits rolled into one, which is access to two of our experts within our network, so Cameron Gordon from Insight and also Charlotte Brown from Informa. And we're going to be hearing from Cameron, first of all, about two very dynamic export markets, South Korea and Vietnam. And then we're also going to be hearing from Charlotte about what Informa is seeing from the trade show floors in two exhibitions in the region. And we recently did some research with our network of distributors overseas, and one of the questions we asked them was where do they go for new sources of suppliers and brands, and the number one by a long way was trade shows. So really important, I think, to listen to what Charlotte has to say. And we're also we don't go to those shows and take British groups currently, but we're thinking about are these shows that we ought to be attending in some capacity, either with a UK group or a showcase, or to do a market visit. So be really keen to get your feedback on that as well. So anyway, I'm going to hand over to Cameron, who will introduce himself for those of you who don't know him. And if you've got any questions, put them in the chat. We're a very friendly group. We're very open to answering questions, and that's what we're here for. So don't be shy, and ask Cameron and Charlotte lots of questions. Okay, Cameron, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicola. Thank you for having me today. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully the technology works as it should. That would be nice. Okay, so bear with me just for 1 second. Sorry. Okay, all right. So can everybody see the first slide of my presentation? Okay, just to make sure that all's fine there. Okay, so you're welcome to this session focused on South Korea and Vietnam markets. Just a little bit of housekeeping, which has really been covered off, but we very much welcome questions via the chat function. So please leave those up. Nicola, would you like to do the Q&A on the back end or after each presentation?
Good question. Maybe should we take questions for you after you've done your bit?
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
okay.
divide it into two.
Yeah, so do put those up. Look, I've tried in my presentation to cover off, major considerations for retail and also some commentary on food service. But if there is anything more relevant to specific brands, then please, put them up in the chat, and we can certainly discuss them after my call. If you could go on mute just for the presentation, that'd be great. And we are recording the event, and I believe it will probably be shared. Okay, so Export market insights, Korea and Vietnam. So look, in all these types of presentations, we really just try and provide a very straight up assessment of the opportunities as well as the challenges at new markets, and really just try to plant some seeds around aspects of the markets that you should be considering as you look at these markets, because all markets do present their unique challenges obviously and their opportunities. Okay, so yeah, my name is Cameron Gordon. I'm from Insight, partner and head of client growth. We've been going for 13 years. We're essentially an outsourced sales, business development and marketing division for a portfolio of mostly Australian, New Zealand and UK food brands that are wanting to, replicate the success that they've had at home in the major growth markets of Southeast and North Asia. So in terms of what I'm going to cover today, a little bit about Insight, which I've covered, the focus on South Korea and Vietnam, obviously, and then also key considerations for each market. Okay, so about Insight. Like I mentioned, we're a food and beverage export development agency. We specialize in the high growth markets of Southeast and North Asia. So that's Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and South Korea. So in terms of our functions, our core functions are to broker in-market distribution for the food brands that we work with. We also account manage our distributors or our clients' distributors on their behalf to make sure that they remain front and center, and that the business is tracking as it should in terms of targeting obviously growth in distribution and sales. We also have a digital marketing team that provides very localized digital marketing services using local content and language, local key opinion leaders and community engagement in each of the markets that we work in, really with two goals. One is obviously to grow brand awareness. The other one is to drive consumers to point of purchase in each market. Okay, so we're looking at South Korea and Vietnam. And in terms of what I'm going to cover off for each market, I'm going to start with really just a basic high-level overview of the grocery market in each country. I'll talk a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of in-demand and trending categories and perhaps some of the reasons for that. A little bit on regulatory considerations, which are obviously very important. And obviously some of the market challenges to be considered by UK food and drink brands. So in terms of grocery channels, firstly looking at South Korea, online shopping is probably in its most developed form in South Korea out of all the 9 markets that we work in. Has a very developed online grocery market. The trend was obviously accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, but even before that, there's a number of very strong online grocery platforms. Coupang, Market Kurly, and SSG.com are perhaps 3 of the strongest. Now, in terms of the way that they operate, very, very slick operations from obviously a platform perspective and a delivery perspective as well. Even with chilled and frozen goods, you're looking at 3-hour delivery in some cases, and really top-notch service. If you look at the market share of online grocery sales versus bricks and mortar grocery sales, relative to what's happening in other markets within Southeast and North Asia, the share that Korea has is quite astounding. Convenience stores are everywhere in South Korea for anybody that's obviously been to Seoul. 7-Eleven, CU, and G25 are very much widespread throughout South Korea, offering really a wide variety of groceries and ready-to-eat meals. much like Taiwan. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Taiwan, but convenience stores in South Korea are much more than convenience stores. You know, like in Taiwan, where 7-Eleven is regarded as the largest quick service restaurant. You know, you've got from a food perspective, you've got really convenient in both takeaway and eat on site options. But the convenience stores really play a bigger role within the market as well from a service perspective. You know, you can pay your bills, you know, from the convenience store. You can pick up your courier parcels and the like, and it's really an integrated model, which means that consumers have a very strong affiliation with convenience stores in South Korea. Large supermarket chains, obviously, you know, a big part of the business as well. E-Mart, Lotte Mart, and Home Plus are perhaps three of the more prominent in South Korea. They offer a wide variety of obviously affordably priced groceries, including fresh produce, packaged foods, and also household items as well. Now, department stores is quite an interesting opportunity, I think, for UK brand department store supermarkets. Very much an interesting channel for UK brands in South Korea. You know, every large department store chain, you know, the likes of Shinsegae, Hyundai, and Lotte, they typically have their own, you know, very premium department store supermarket in the basement. You know, the premium department store grocery outlets are really where, you know, better quality, more premium imported food and drink products are housed. And, you know, if you go into, say, the Shinsegae department store in Seoul or the Hyundai department store, they're just beautiful shopping experiences, really well merchandised, and product from all over the world, and not only product that you'd find in the typical, you know, Tesco's or Waitrose, but, you know, some really interesting stuff as well. So if you are, you know, more at that premium specialty end, then that's perhaps a channel that you should be looking at in South Korea. The other interesting channel also, you've got a number of very specialty lifestyle-based stores where you can buy everything from, you know, t-shirts to beauty products, to snack food, to on-the-go food. And, you know, one example is an outlet is a group called Oliver Young, who's owned by, again, one of the larger conglomerates, and, you know, they've got 1,200 plus, you know, stores and really interesting store formats. So, you know, if you're not a typical, you know, grocery food product, if you're a bit more specialty, if you're on the health or the wellness or the you know, more the beauty foods angle and the like, then that could also be a channel to be considered. Look, in terms of marketing and promotion, and I'd just like to share a few notes, I guess, on strategies that have been effective, you know, for our clients that we've launched into the into the market in South Korea. Social media marketing is massively significant in South Korea. Digital consumption, huge. You know, utilization of popular media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, Kakao Talk, and Naver are their local platforms. It's very effective, and, you know, you can very much implement a localized strategy, really targeting, you know, your ideal Korean consumer, talking to them in a way that they like to be talked with. You know, you can do it on a very cost-effective basis. Influencer marketing, again, is significant. You know, partnering with local credible brand, and I think what's important there is the credible brand relevant influencers to promote the brand. You know, again, that's going to open that door to your ideal consumer. Online marketplaces, you know, marketing promotion through those is something that's worked well for us and our clients. You know, product, you know, placement of products and brand in popular e-commerce platforms, again, including Coupang and Market Kurly, to increase the visibility of product and brand, you know, works really well. And then you've got, you know, your traditional discount and price promotions run, you know, through specific, you know, supermarket channels and the like. discounts and promotions, they do attract consumers, and they do encourage trial, and especially in the early stages, for brands that are launching in the market, that even if they're very well-known brands in the UK, when they do launch in South Korea or they do launch in a new export market, they are somewhat unknown. So it is really important to invest in, in-store strategies that are going to drive, trial in the first instance. In terms of marketing in South Korea, it's incredibly important to localize your content. Do put the time into understanding the local culture, the norms, the expectations and consumer behavior in South Korea. Don't try and roll out your UK digital strategy in South Korea, because it's probably not going to be a good use of funds. Work with a specialist like Insight, for example, to develop a South Korea specific strategy with localized content, key opinion leaders, language, and community engagement. In terms of expectations from grocery channels, for investment and listing fees and marketing and the like, I'll draw some parallels today between South Korea and Vietnam a little bit later. But look, unlike other Southeast Asian markets that we work in, and even North Asian markets such as Hong Kong and Taiwan, in South Korea, listing fees have actually been regulated against by the government, which is a big it's a big win, I guess. Not having to put the money down, prior to any proof of sales or any sales history is a big plus. But on the backside of that, one of the results of the regulation against listing fees and the like is that typically, retailers and distributors are more margin hungry when it comes to sales margins, and also the marketing support expectation that they expect from their distributors and their brands. So while you win on one side and not having to put a lot of money down in terms of listing fees and compulsory advertising and promotion funds and the like, you do get it a little bit on the backside with that margin expectation. It is important to understand that not all South Korean distributors can supply grocery channels directly. Each retailer has an approved list of what they call vendors. So, you may be talking to distributors, for example, that say that they can supply, obviously, whether it's Home Plus, whether it's Emart, whether it's Lotte, etc. But if they don't have approved vendor status, it essentially means that you're going to be selling to that distributor, and then that distributor is going to be giving another margin to the vendor. So you're essentially putting two distributors in place, to supply specific channels. And, the different vendors have different arrangements with different retailers. So you really need to get a good understanding as to whether the distributors that you're actually engaging are approved vendors who can sell directly to the retailers themselves. Otherwise, the margin build is going to be quite significant, because you're going to be paying a significant margin to the distributor, and then that vendor is also going to be taking a significant margin on top of the margin that the retailers are taking as well. Some South Korean distributors can have a tendency to like to be left to themselves when it comes to strategy setting and marketing. We're all about collaboration, and we're all about working with partners over the long term on the strategy, because we feel that everybody has value to add. But it is something to watch out for. So look for signs of that in the early stages, and whether partners that you're engaging could be a good fit from a collaboration perspective. In terms of in-demand categories, we're seeing significant growth in demand for dairy, mainly, to be honest, in the butter category. Imported cheese is growing. We're seeing good demand there. Yogurt's an interesting category in that there are very few imported yogurt brands in South Korea. The brands that you would the international brands that you would know have typically done JVs with local partners, because the style of yogurt that is popular in Korea is very different to that is popular in the UK, Australia, or New Zealand. we're seeing significant growth in health, wellness, and beauty-related foods. I'm not too sure if you're familiar with the beauty routines of Korean women and also Korean men, but the Korean women typically go through like a 10-step beauty routine first thing in the morning. Korean men do a little bit better at 5 steps, generally. So, anything that plays to, the beauty, the health, the wellness, and has a point of difference, there definitely has a market. We are seeing growth in plant-based food and beverages, functional plant-based food and beverages, as most of the world is. Functional beverages also are doing quite well. No low sugar. In terms of functionality, products such as high protein or have beauty elements such as collagen are also doing fairly well. Korea is also a big convenience and ready-to-eat food market. Granted, a lot of that, is Korean, food product, but there is also the emergence of, demand for imported, ready-to-eat and convenience meals and the like as well. In terms of regulatory considerations, there's 2 bodies in Korea that you need to consider. One is the Korean Food and Drug Administration. The other one is the Ministry for Food and Drug Safety. The manufacturer is required to be registered with the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety and submit the necessary documents to be eligible to export to Korea. Examples of documents that need to be provided, documents like GMP certificates, MSDS, materials safety data sheets, and or product specification sheets, for example. There are local labeling requirements that need to be complied with, including allergen labeling. A complete breakdown of the ingredients list on a percentage basis that adds up to 100% is required for regulatory assessment. Obviously, manufacturers get a bit cagey around providing that level of breakdown, but unfortunately, that is a requirement of the authorities in Korea. So products must comply with permitted usage levels of food additives, for example, set by local authorities. Okay, some of the market challenges to be considered. South Korea it's a highly competitive food industry, and South Koreans are very proud of Korean manufactured food and beverage brands. Brand equity has to be established, and pricing needs to be as competitive as possible. South Korea has very strict regulations and standards for food safety, labeling, and packaging. South Korea also has strict and somewhat outdated rules on ingredients that may make some categories challenging, such as sugar replacements, and such as functional ingredients in beverages, for example. So do seek specialist help in advance, from FDA specialists who can obviously advise on product formulations and ingredients that need to be watched out for, etc. It's really important to understand local consumer preferences and tastes for product, brand, and also marketing. Korea is very different to the other markets that we work in terms of consumer expectations around product, brand, and marketing. Korean is the primary language used in business and consumer communication in South Korea. English is very much secondary. So when you're reaching out, if you're proactively targeting importers and distributors, it's something to watch out for. They're not necessarily ignoring you. It's about needing to get through to the correct gatekeeper in the market. Choosing distribution channels carefully based on fit and relevance, and building collaborative relationships with your distributor is really essential to long-term success. Okay, so that covers off my summary on South Korea. I'm going to move on to Vietnam now, and then I will take questions in follow-up. Okay, so same agenda for Vietnam. I want to provide firstly a high-level overview of the Vietnamese grocery market. So Vietnam is still very much a developing market, but many international brands are very much targeting Vietnam due to its growth potential, its very young population, and also the rise in middle-class income. E-commerce and digitization is playing an increasing role as technology consumption and adoption really continues to rise in Vietnam. In terms of retail formats, Vietnam grocery is served by a variety of retail formats, including traditional wet markets, supermarkets, hypermarkets, convenience stores, and also e-commerce platforms. In terms of major players in the Vietnamese grocery market, Vinmart and Big C, which is owned by the Central Group, are very prominent in the supermarket and hypermarket business. Saigon Co-op, which operates the popular Co-op Mart and Co-op food stores, is a significant player. The Japanese are also in there in the form of Aeon. Aeon supermarkets, they do have a large presence in the Vietnamese retail sector. In terms of convenience stores, Circle K and Family Mart are strong players in the market. And in terms of the e-commerce platforms, Shopee and Lazada are the leading e-commerce platforms. Also, not only in general goods, but also in the grocery delivery services as well. In terms of launching in Vietnam, marketing and promotion strategies to be considered. Again, those that have worked well for us in the Vietnamese market. You can't beat good old in-store activations in the early stages of a launch. Typically prior to COVID, at least, 100% of marketing funds were going into in-store activations for at least the first 2 years. Obviously, that's changed up a bit with COVID and the switch to a digital approach, or not a switch, but a combination of digital and also in store. So point of sale displays, sampling product demonstrations, discounts and promotions are still very popular in Vietnam. Like in any export market, in-store promotions are incredibly important in the early stages, really to induce that consumer trial, especially for brands that are unknown. Do ensure that you are very targeted with channels in which you undertake promotional activity. Nobody wants to spend money that they don't have to by, putting promoters in a store where consumers shop that just aren't relevant to the brand. So work closely with your appointed importers and distributors on that. In terms of digital, with the growth of digital media and the high consumption of digital media within Vietnam, online advertising, including social media campaigns, banner ads, and influencer marketing is increasingly important. Celebrity influence marketing is highly popular in Vietnam, with some of the leading KOLs having huge followings in the market. Again, though, to be effective, seek the help of a trusted and experienced partner to develop and implement a Vietnam-specific digital strategy. Again, using local content that resonates, local key opinion leaders, community engagement tools that work in the local market, and also, local language where required. In terms of the expectation from grocery channels for investment, which is a big topic, obviously, major retailers in Vietnam, do charge listing fees for new listings, typically on a per SKU basis. And they also typically want brands and distributors to commit to retailer-led promotional activity as the listing is approved. Distributors typically do expect the brand owner to fund the majority of listing fees, as technically it is the brand owner that does own the listing, and that brand owner can move to a new distributor, really at any point that they want. So there is an expectation of investment. Distributors will in many cases be willing to share A&P costs, advertising and promotion costs. 50-50 is not uncommon. The distributor will also usually be willing to absorb the margin reductions associated with running price promotions and the like. If a brand does choose, to go into premium stores, listing fees can be negotiated down. Obviously, less distribution means less volume, but if a careful approach is wanted, then there is an opportunity there. But obviously, with export, it's about obviously getting to a critical mass as quickly as possible in terms of distribution. That doesn't mean wide distribution. It just means critical mass and relevant stores. So really, again, work with your partner to look at where they feel that the most relevant channel is for your product, and focus, at least in the early stages, in getting listings into those channels. In terms of in demand or trending categories, snack items, we are seeing an increase in demand for general snack items. Beverages, we're seeing a growth in demand for better for you, lower sugar, functional beverages, for example. We are seeing growth in healthy and organic foods. Health conscious consumers are certainly seeking out healthier food options, including organic, gluten-free items and foods with reduced additives and preservatives. Dairy and dairy alternatives. Vietnam has a very strong dairy market. You'd be surprised. They've got some very strong fresh milk businesses, for example. Demand for dairy products, including milk, yogurt, and cheese, are certainly more popular, as spending power is increasing. Demand for plant-based dairy alternatives is also increasing. Regulatory considerations. Imported products need to comply with Vietnamese food safety law, which regulates production, distribution, and labeling of food products. This law also covers additives, contaminants, hygiene standards, etc. as well. Some food products may need to be registered or approved from the Vietnamese authority prior to being imported or sold in the market. Work with your distributor to ensure that your products meet the necessary requirements and undergo the appropriate registration processes. And I'd recommend that you do that as early as possible. Nobody wants a container on the water or a container in production if at the last minute you find that there are challenges in terms of the regulatory side. So work early with specialists, with your importer distributor, really to understand what is required, from a compliance perspective. Work with your local importer to ensure your labeling complies with local regulations, or if changes are required. Again, nobody wants to be stuck with product on the water that doesn't comply with local regulations. Okay, some considerations for UK brands for Vietnam. The pricing tier is relatively very low in Vietnam versus other Southeast Asian markets. Whereas a UK product may sell very acceptably in Singapore, which is more of a premium market in Southeast Asia, the pricing tier is very competitive in Vietnam. So you're going to need to think about how you're going to be as competitive as possible. And that may, considerations there may be reformulation, may be smaller pack sizes, for example, to hit lower price points. Cold chain. There is no national supplier of chilled or frozen logistics services in Vietnam. There are obviously services in and around metropolitan areas, but there's no real national chain. So if you're a chilled or a frozen product, you're going to need to consider, the implications of that. So you're really going to need to look for a partnership with a proven importer of chilled and frozen products, with their own or contracted temperature controlled warehousing and trucking, that they have a fleet in place. So, if you're in the chilled and the frozen category, you want to be looking closely at what importers and distributors are already carrying in that category to make sure that they have the capacity to do a good job with your products. You obviously don't want to be a test case for an ambient importer who's considering chilled and frozen. So look for a proven track record there. there is, there is strong local competition in some categories in Vietnam, including snacks, dairy, and fruit and vegetable-based products. So put the time into understanding your competition as a starting point, before committing too much time or money to the market. Again, it really does come back to doing as much research as possible to understand the nuances and the expectations of the market. Okay, so I've talked a lot there, but now I'd like to hand over to see if there are any questions that I can address.
Great, thanks, Cameron. Just while people are thinking about if they've got any questions, which pop them in the chat box. I think my first action is going to be go and look up the beauty routines of women in South Korea, because I think I've got a hell of a lot to learn there.
It's amazing. It really is. It's even the interesting one is the men, right? Like it's next level.
Yeah, I'd never get out of the house if I started doing more than one step. But no, that really insightful as ever. And I've just got one question, which was around, obviously British brands are probably a bit late to the party in terms of brands from overseas markets. Obviously the Aussies and Kiwis have probably been there a lot longer. Are there any specific attributes of British brands that, if we're talking to people in the market, that are going to make us have more appeal? Are there any, that will push some of the right buttons with buyers and consumers? Anything particularly that stands out for British brands?
Yeah, look, I think British brands have a lot going for them generally, right? The flip side of the argument around late to the party is uniqueness. Australia, New Zealand, European brands, obviously, in the case of Vietnam, American brands in the case of South Korea. There's a big, obviously, American influence there. So yeah, maybe somewhat late in some cases, but there is certainly an appreciation of the innovation, I think, of UK brands, as well as the differentials on packaging design and these little things that I think do matter. But there's a number of different angles. There's obviously the food safety angle, which has become increasingly more important. Britain, UK is very much regarded as a safe food manufacturer, which is great. Obviously there's a huge amount of history, not so much relevant to Korea or Vietnam, more so probably Singapore, Malaysia, etc. But that there is that global appreciation of Britain and the history. So I think that can certainly be played on. But the most important thing, I think, and I talk to all our clients about this, no matter where they're from, is ultimately success is going to come down to putting forward a commercially viable proposition. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you've got a good product and you understand the value chain in terms of price and who needs what along the way, and you're willing to participate in the business and you're willing to invest in the business over the long term, not only money but time, to really show that you're committed to the business and you work with your partners. I think those things are far more important than where the brand comes from. So I think those are important takeaways.
Great, thank you. Yeah, all good advice as always. And yeah, if you have got any questions for Cameron, you think of anything, put them in the chat, or he's got his contact details there, so you can email him direct if you'd rather. And obviously one of the ways, or great ways, to understand more about the market, to meet potential distributors and customers, is to go to a trade show. So delighted to have Charlotte Brown from Informa with us, who's going to talk to us about what they're seeing on the trade show floors in both South Korea and Vietnam. And as I said at the beginning, if you missed it, we're thinking of potentially having a presence at one or both of the shows. So really interested to hear what you think, that whether there is interest. So Charlotte, over to you.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself first. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me to participate today. Really interesting presentation from Cameron, echoing quite a lot of the themes that we've noticed on the trade show floor. Can you all see my presentation okay? Yep, great, thank you very much. Okay, so just a little bit of an overview in terms of who we are and where we come from, although I'm sure quite a few of you already know about Informa. We are the largest exhibition company in the world. We've actually been running food and beverage events across Asia under many different guises, so not under Informa Markets originally, for over 40 years, and seen the incredible growth of the market and the demand alongside this for international products. In terms of Asia itself, I think we're all aware that Asia is a massively growing marketplace, and there are sort of amazing opportunities there. And interestingly, I was reading actually that the ASEAN region are actually looking at bringing in some more regulations around organic products, which may affect some people in the future, some of the people on the call here today. Just really sort of wanting to narrow down to South Korea. We run an event called Seoul Food and Hotel. This run has been running since 2007. We were first to market in the country for a food and beverage event trade show, and the last edition ran this year in May 30th to the 2nd of June. In terms of the trends and what's going on at the moment, and just again a little bit of an overview, talking about people being, who's there and who are there. We had 13 national groups and pavilions, and this ranged from countries like Australia, huge presence, Canada, Denmark, USA, Turkey, Cyprus, Germany, Greece. From the UK, we had a few independent companies, so AHDB and a number of kind of individual stands from companies that are actually developing their products to the South Korean marketplace. What do we notice in terms of the trends? Dairy and meat. Again, Cameron touched on this. Meat's been a massive sector there for years, for a long time. The dairy market is one that is absolutely growing. It's a very sophisticated market in Seoul, and because we have a local team on the ground, they very much, they can sort of respond to us and tell us what the trends are over there. We also notice that health and well-being and natural products. If your products are in that sector, then Seoul really should be part of your future plans, and South Korea should be part of your future plans. That is such a big category at the moment. Really, the health and well-being, in terms of certainly even post-COVID as well, what people are putting into their bodies as well as their beauty regimes, is really important. And again, this is just echoed in the level of the products that we saw and the trends at the show. Again, moving on to the fact that there were sort of lots of plant-based products and products with functional, products which have got sort of mushrooms or nootropics in there are really popular. People are very interested in those products, and the innovation around those products. And beverages as well, of all kinds. I mean, everything from soft drinks, no and low, through to sort of premium alcohol products as well. One thing that we actually do, and we've run, is that we actually have a product showcase. So this has something that we did new for this year, and this gave clients who were participating an opportunity to get their products part of the showcase. And the categories that were sort of, again, this was done by the local team, the categories that they were under were fine food, health and well-being, innovative food and drink, and snacks. So interestingly, you've got the contrast that although people want health and well-being, they also want really nice snacks. So there's opportunities there again for snacking products. And when we're talking about sort of, again, the sort of the well-being and the drinks, we're sort of also looking at things like coffee and products around coffee, because those are sort of, again, something that there's quite a big coffee culture in Korea, and this is really, again, sort of something that is people want. So if you've got products that are coffee or can be sold within a kind of coffee culture or a coffee house, a cafe, etc., those again are products which are really good to bring to market. You also have, and again, Cameron's touched on this as the expert, but we know what we know is that you have to have the nutritional contents really sort of clearly classified. The packaging and design is really important. So again, you need to look at what you actually are doing in terms of your packaging design, what you've already got already. Is it right for that marketplace? Does it sort of stand out? Does it have a little bit of pizzazz about it? Do people buy with their eyes before they obviously taste that? And there is also the element of sustainability, and making sure that things are sort of have that got are you making sure that your sustainability credentials are good? Again, this is something that would be working with local partners on that. But all these trends are things that we noticed this year. It's a very sophisticated marketplace. There really is, in terms of the sort of the overall, the overall population. You've got a young and growing middle class. They are looking for products to enjoy, and also again another area that I noticed from looking through the products is that they're baby growth is another area that is really kind of baby food. Babies grow, not yeah. So baby food is another area that is something that people looking at premium products, and also convenience food. So again, this is just tying into the fact that it's the country itself is not sort of one that has a huge agricultural basis, but so again, it's the convenience food factor, and that really does give a sort of just a little bit of an overview in terms of what's sort of going on over there. There is it's a sophisticated audience, very premium. They what we've noticed with Seoul is as an event, we are now pretty much selling out the event and the floor space at the event, and that sounds great for us, but what it means is that we know that the companies and the pavilions who are coming from groups that have already been there for a number of years, they're having more and more uptake. So yeah, it would be really amazing to have more uptake from the UK to obviously promote some of the products that we have, that we could launch into those marketplaces. Moving on to Vietnam. Again, Vietnam, just to give a little bit of an overview, we run 2 events here. We launched Food and Hotel Hanoi, that launched in 2018, and Food and Hotel Vietnam, which has been in existence since 2004 in Ho Chi Minh City. The reasons we have 2 events is because you probably know from your own geography that Vietnam is quite a long, narrow country in terms of the sort of buyers moving across through the sort of the different areas. We did realise that actually there was an opportunity to have sort of 2 different events, because people don't necessarily go to Ho Chi Minh City if they're in Hanoi, and vice versa. So the next edition we've actually got is in Hanoi, which is in November this year. Just to go sort of just talking about sort of Ho Chi Minh City, which is our original show, that's a very international city. And this is reflected again in the international groups that we have attending. We have groups from all across the world that have pavilions. Again, with the UK, we've had so we've had AHDB, we've had a number of individual companies that have come on a regular basis because they've been building market share there, but we've not had a pavilion as such. We have a very broad product range, but it's interesting to sort of bear in mind that Ho Chi Minh City it's a fine dining culture. So we have a lot of chefs coming to the event. We run a culinary cooking class, and there's high-end restaurants there, and also the hotel sector. But that you haven't just got to sort of target the sort of the food service side. It's also about getting products into the sort of into the supermarkets, and this is where you can see from the slide I'm sharing sort of some of the products that ran at the last edition. So we've got kombucha on there. We've got sort of we've got some snacking products. We've got some sort of premium biscuits. Though you know, again, it's really sort of, there is a real variety. There is certainly an interest and an eagerness for products from overseas. As I say, going back to the fact that there is a real growth of a middle class, and the first place people do to sort of obviously you know, showcase their own sort of increasing affluence is by sort of buying more premium food products. And there's, you know, there's a very youthful population. 70% of the population is under 35, and they want innovative food solutions that are convenient and high quality. And again, just going back to the points that were made by Cameron, you've got to have very sort of clear packaging. It's got to sort of, you know, look good, really sort of, you know, have a real sort of, you know, clarity on what the ingredients are, and just have that sort of design as well, so the design factor. So again, I'm just showcasing some more products here that we had at the last edition, and we've got on there, we've got collagen drinks. So again, it seems that, you know, sort of even in Vietnam, health and well-being is something that is very much of interest. And the gifting and premium products, although yes, in terms of price point, it's quite a, you know, there is an element of being aware of the price point on that. But there's certainly an element of heritage, and that's something that the UK do very well. We've got obviously an incredible heritage in terms of our products and our sort of, you know, our standing on that. So, you know, just really looking at the sort of trends again, meat is still very much a very big trend over there, but the other products that offer opportunities are health and well-being, snacking, baby products. Yes, there are restrictions on alcohol import. You need to work with a local distributor. And again, that's something that just being aware of, you know, if you for the products that are there. But there is interest and there is uptake for, again, for brands, lots of, you know, for whiskey brands, beer brands, and it's something that we are keen to grow, because we know there is a demand there, but it's just being aware of that before you look to go to market. So just in summary, thank you very much for your time. I will drop my email address in the chat, so you can obviously, if you wanted to ask any questions directly to me, or if you want any further information. But yeah, that's in summary, is they're both marketplaces that offer really big opportunities for UK brands.
Great, Charlotte. Thank you very much. And yeah, as you say, two different but dynamic shows. And I think what's interesting is that both, we didn't confer beforehand, but interestingly, both you and Cameron mentioned a lot of categories that are on the up in those markets that are really well represented by members at the FDA. So, you know, I think they're definitely ones to watch for the future. And I can't see any questions coming in. You'll probably all think of something once we left the call, but I think in terms of next steps, do contact Cameron and speak to him about specific opportunities for your brands. And also, if you want to have another chat with Charlotte about one or both of the shows, just to find out a bit more, she's going to give us your contact details as well. Also, it's always worth having a chat with Karen, because as I said, she's trying to ascertain whether we should have a presence at one or both of those shows going forward. We're always looking for new shows to go to, and just to understand, you know, what the appetite is and what the presence should be. And just to really wash up by saying that for those of you who've joined us who aren't FDA members, I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you've seen a bit about our community, the kind of value that we add. And if you want to have a chat with us about, you know, how you could become part of it and join lots more great events like this, do get in touch. And we'll see you all at our next event. And thanks very much to Cameron and Charlotte for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nicola. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.